10 years of being a bootlicker ended in my family's ruin and being consumed by flames. Ethan, smiled for the icy campus beauty Sophia and willingly became a beast of burden, only to discover I was merely a stepping stone for her and her true love Lucas. Back 10 years, Sophia's text came again. My laptop broke, buy me a new one. I laughed. Blood roared hot in my veins. This time I replied with one word. Get lost. Then I deleted all her contact information. Your thrones were forged stepping on my corpse. Now I will personally push you into the hell I once endured, and with your wails, offer the most magnificent salute to my rebirth. When the phone vibrated, I was lying on a hard wooden bed in the college dorm, a dull ache from hangover radiating across the back of my head. Sunlight sliced a dazzling streak of dust through the air as it passed through the curtain gap. I instinctively reached for my phone. A message lit the screen from Sophia. The message was brief, cold, carrying a tone of entitlement, as if issuing an order. My laptop is broken. Buy me a new one. The latest model. For a moment, it wasn't a headache, but my heart, as if gripped violently by an invisible giant hand and plunged into icy water. The memories I had deliberately buried in the abyss of death, accompanied by an intense, suffocating sensation, came rushing back into my mind. 10 years. I had been Sophia's friend for a full 10 years. Since college, I have been her most loyal knight, the most convenient wallet, the servant who answers her call at any time. When she says east, I would never go west. When she furrows her brow, I would ache so much I couldn't sleep all night. My father, the founder of Johnson Group, scolded me more than once. Ethan, for a woman, have you lost all sense of dignity? You brought shame on the Johnson family. How did I answer back then? I said, Dad, you don't understand. Sophia is different. She's cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. Cold outside, warm inside? Ha ha ha. I laughed until my whole body shook, tears flowing uncontrollably. Yes, she was indeed warm, but that warmth was never meant for me. For 10 years, I ran errands for her, watching my family's company plunge toward the abyss step by step because of my negligence and bad decisions. And each time, Sophia would show up at my most desperate moments, bringing her friend Lucas and offering me help. The price was that Johnson Group's shares were gradually diluted until they ended up in Lucas's hands. And I, after losing all my usefulness, was trapped in a meticulously planned warehouse fire. Before the flames consumed me, I received one last message from an unfamiliar number. It was a photo. In the photo, Sophia is nestled in Lucas's arms, smiling brilliantly and sweetly. In the background is the brand new headquarters building of Johnson Group. Below the photos, there was a line of text. Ethan, thank you. Your 10 years have paved the most perfect red carpet for us. So it turned out I wasn't a knight. I was just a stepping stone. I wasn't a friend. I was merely a tool. The love I thought I had was nothing but a carefully woven 10-year-long deception. The burning pain of that betrayal was millions of times more agonizing than being consumed by flames. Ethan, are you okay? Having a nightmare? Crying and laughing at the same time. A worried voice came from the upper bunk, my roommate Oliver Chun. I snapped my head up and looked around. The familiar 4-person dorm room, posters of players on the walls, yesterday's washed jersey still hanging on the balcony. The calendar on the desk clearly showed a date, September 15th, 2014. I'm back. I returned to 10 years ago, the first week of sophomore year. All the tragedies haven't begun yet. My heart pounds wildly in my chest, not from joy, but from an extreme hatred and excitement clawing up from the depths of hell. I stared at the message from Sophia on my phone. Every word was like a poisoned steel needle piercing my eyes. In my previous life, after receiving that message, I skipped my afternoon major class, used the living money my father had just sent me plus the scholarship I'd saved by scrimping and saving, and excitedly went to the Apple store to buy her the latest laptop. I still remember when I set the computer down in front of her, she only said casually, "Leave it there," without even giving me a proper look. The next day, I saw that brand new laptop sitting on Lucas's desk. Lucas patted my shoulder, grinning with a face full of gratitude. "Ethan, thanks. I was just worried I didn't have money to replace my computer." At the time, I foolishly thought Sophia was considerate, that she knew Lucas came from a poor family, and so gifted him the computer. Now, when I think about it, it wasn't consideration, it was a reward. Using my money to buy her favor, to feed her lover. Ethan, am utterly foolish and pathetic. A violent impulse swept through my organs. My nails dug deeply into my palm until a sharp sting came. A cold sneer curled inside me, yet my fingers were unnaturally steady. I didn't demand explanations at length, nor did I hurl hysterical curses. I just brought up the keyboard, and to that familiar, yet glaring number, replied with a single character. "Get out." Sent. Then I long pressed the contact Sophia. Delete. When the confirmation box popped up, I didn't hesitate for a moment. Confirm. The whole world seemed to fall silent at that moment. After doing all that, I threw my phone aside, lay back on the bed, and panted heavily. The 10 years of pin-up rage in my chest finally seemed to find an outlet, and it felt exhilarating. "Whoa, Ethan, who did you just blow up at?" Oliver from the upper bunk poked his head out, all gossip. "Wasn't Sophia, was it? You finally grew a spine, huh?" I tugged at the corner of my mouth and flashed a somewhat feral smile. "Just someone insignificant. From today on, the name Sophia means nothing to me but hatred." The phone vibrated again. It was a call with no saved contact name, but I knew that string of numbers as if it were burned into me. It was Sophia. In my last life, that string of numbers on my phone was labeled the only one. I stared at the numbers, letting them ring tirelessly until the call dropped itself. The text message came again shortly after. "Ethan, what do you mean?" Through the screen, I could already imagine Sophia frowning, her face wearing that displeased, icy expression. She probably thought this was another one of my attention-seeking, feign withdrawal tricks. I smiled. I didn't reply. I immediately added that number to my block list. "Oliver, do me a favor." I sat up and looked at my roommate. "Tell me, ask for me to have a long leave? Say there's an emergency in my family home. Where are you going?" Oliver was stunned. My eyes sparkled with something he couldn't understand, a light mixed with madness and calm. To make money, the first thing I needed to do was accumulate my initial capital. In my last life, I spent all my money on Sophia and knew nothing about finance or investing. But my soul from 10 years later clearly remembered every financial boom of the coming years. Bitcoin, what in 2014 was still regarded as a digital game for geeks, and even dismissed by many mainstream economists as a tulip mania scam, would in the coming years ignite a global wealth frenzy. I remember clearly that just a few days ago, because of an exchange called Mintu collapsing, the price of Bitcoin plummeted to around $300, and the whole market was in mourning. Everyone thought it was going to go to zero, but I knew this was a golden opportunity. I turned on my computer and logged into the brokerage account my father had opened early for me to train my financial skills. There was $500,000 in it, money my father told me to use for practice. In my previous life, I used that money to chase a worthless stock, lost horribly, and in the end had to sell off my shares in Johnson Group to plug the hole, which later became Lucas's joke about me having no business sense. This time, I chose to liquidate without hesitation. Then I used every channel I could find to convert the $500,000 entirely into USD, and through a somewhat complex overseas platform, at an average price of $310, I went all in on Bitcoin. By the time I finished, it was already late at night. In the dormitory, Oliver was already fast asleep. I stood on the balcony, looking at the peaceful campus outside, while my heart was a turbulent sea. 500,000 US dollars. This is my first bullet. Sophia, Lucas, are you ready? The feast tailored for you is only just beginning. The next day, I didn't go to class and took the train straight home. When my father, William Johnson, saw me, his brows knotted into a frown. "Didn't the semester just start? Why are you back? Did you cause trouble at school again?" His tone was stern, but deep in his eyes there was a hint of concern. In my past life, I always thought he was strict and old-fashioned, that he didn't understand my love, and the relationship between father and son had once fallen to a freezing point. Only after I died and was reborn did I understand how deep a father's love lay behind that strictness. My nose pricked, and I nearly burst into tears. I took a deep breath, forced down the surging emotions, walked up to him, and bowed deeply. "Dad, I'm sorry." William Johnson was stunned. He probably had never seen me look so solemn. What's wrong with you?" "Dad, I was such a jerk before and disappointed you. From today on, I want to learn how to do business from you. I want to help shoulder the burden." I lifted my head and looked at him with a determined gaze. William Johnson examined me, as if trying to tell from my face whether this was just another whim. "Oh, the sun's risen from the west? What about your Sophia? Ignore her now." His tone carried a hint of ridicule. "We broke up." I answered crisply. "Broken up?" William Johnson clearly didn't believe it. "Just because she asked you to buy a computer and you didn't?" A chill ran through me. It seemed Sophia had already phoned home. Her tactics were still the same as before. She always liked to go after the people closest to me to put pressure on me. "Dad, it's not because of the computer. It's because I don't want to be a fool who comes when called and is discarded at will anymore." I look him straight in the eyes. "Dad, give me a chance, and give yourself a chance too. Believe me this once." William Johnson was silent for a long time. In the end, he sighed. "What do you plan to do?" "Dad, I need money. The more the better. What do you want the money for?" "An investment," I said succinctly. "A project that's very high risk, but the returns are also extremely high." I didn't say Bitcoin because even if I did, he wouldn't understand and would think I was crazy. I could only communicate in a way he would understand. "Nonsense." William Johnson slammed the table. "You lost that 500,000 of yours, and it's not enough. You want to touch the company's money too?" "Dad, I didn't lose that 500,000. I invested it in one place. 1 month, just 1 month, and you'll see returns." My tone was calm, but carried an unquestionable confidence. "If I fail after a month, you can do with me as you please. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do. But if I succeed, I want you to give me greater autonomy." This was a wager agreement, using my future to bet on an opportunity. William Johnson stared at me intently, as if trying to see through me. After a long moment, he took a card from the drawer and tossed it onto the table. "There are $3 million in here. That's the absolute limit of what I can personally use. The company's money. You don't get a single cent, Ethan. This is the last time I'm trusting you. If you blow through this money too." He didn't finish the sentence, but the disappointment and finality in his eyes made my heart skip a beat. "Dad, don't worry." I picked up the card. My palm felt heavy. "You will be proud of the decision you made today." I didn't linger any longer and turned to leave at once. I had to race against time, because I knew that Lucas, that hypocrite, was about to make his move. Back at school, I immediately put that $3 million, along with the remaining money I had, all into the Bitcoin market. At $3.5 million at the time's price, I practically consumed every sell order available on the market. My account quietly held over 1,600 Bitcoins. After doing all this, I felt completely drained. This was not just a gamble with money, but a wager with my fate. For the next few days, I cut myself off from the outside world entirely, doing only 3 things each day: eat, sleep, and watch the market. Bitcoin's price, as I had expected, languished around the low dollar 300s, lifeless and stagnant. Meanwhile, on the other side, Sophia and Lucas obviously hadn't given up. My phone was blown up, bombarded one after another by all kinds of unknown numbers. Oliver told me Sophia had even come to the dorm to look for me several times in person, each time with a cold face, as if someone owed her millions of dollars. "Ethan, what the hell are you up to?" That look on Sophia's face, like she's going to eat someone. And that Lucas, pretending to be sincere, coming over to ask if you're in some sort of trouble, saying we're all friends and can help. Huh, a weasel wishing a chicken a happy new year. I listened to Oliver's retelling, a faint sneer curling at the corner of my mouth. "In a hurry? Good. The more anxious you are, the more it proves my disappearance has disrupted your plans." Lucas comes from an ordinary family. If he wants to climb up, he must rely on the Taylor family behind Sophia and on me, this walking ATM. In the last life, he took advantage of my brotherly trust in him, continually extracting Johnson Group's business secrets from me, then used the Taylor family's capital maneuvers to nibble away at my family step by step. And at that moment, it was the crucial node of one of his schemes, urgently needing a sum of seed money. This money was originally supposed to be provided by me willingly. Now I'm gone. His funding line has been severed. I can imagine his current anxiety and anger. This feeling of toying with my enemies in the palm of my hand gave me an unprecedented thrill. Half a month later, the Bitcoin market finally saw a turnaround. A piece of news from Wall Street. A low-profile hedge fund announced it was including Bitcoin in its asset allocation. The news was like a depth charge, instantly detonating the long-dormant market. The price of Bitcoin began to climb upward at a terrifying speed. $350, $400, $500. My account balance swelled like a rolling snowball. My breathing grew more rapid. My heart pounded wildly, blood rushing to my head and exploding. I stared fixedly at the crazily rising candlestick on the screen, my eyes full of bloodshot veins. Here we go. The era that belongs to me is finally coming. On the last day of the 1-month deadline, I returned home. William Johnson sat in the study, his face so sullen it seemed to drip. The ashtray in front of him was stuffed with cigarette butts. He didn't even lift an eyelid when he saw me come in. "Where's the money?" I didn't say anything. I simply placed a new bank card gently in front of him. "Dad, there is $10 million on this. $3 million is your principal. The other $7 million is interest." William Johnson suddenly looked up, his eyes filled with incredulous shock. "What did you say?" I said I used $5 million to earn $10 million within a month, I repeated calmly. When the price of Bitcoin surged to $1,000, I decisively sold off 1/3. I knew this bull market was far from over, but with father, I needed to give him an explanation. William Johnson trembled as he picked up that card, glanced at me again, his lips moving a few times, but he couldn't utter a single word. Shock, doubt, confusion. And finally, all of it transformed into a complex, indescribable excitement. How did you do it?" "Dad, this is a secret." I smiled faintly. "All you need to know is that your son has grown up. From now on, the enemies of the Johnson Group will be wiped out by my own hands." My tone was light, but the chill in my words seemed to lower the temperature of the study by several degrees. William Johnson looked at me with unfamiliar eyes and was silent for a long time. He knew that his son was truly different now. With the funding problem solved, my revenge plan officially moved into its second phase. Target, Lucas. I knew that at this moment, Lucas must be like an ant on a hot pan. For an internet startup project, he had already painted a very big pie. Not only had he taken money from Sophia, he had also secured preliminary investment intentions from several venture capital firms. But all of this depended on one condition. He could produce a sum of seed money substantial enough to prove his capability. That money was supposed to come from me. Now that I've cut off his funding, he'll have to look elsewhere. And I'm well aware of who he'll set his sights on next. An important partner of Johnson Group, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson has a new materials project in hand with broad prospects. It is a key part of Johnson Group's strategic layout for the coming years. In the last life, Lucas exploited the conflict between me and Mr. Anderson's son, Leo Anderson, sabotaging us. He not only swindled Mr. Anderson's trust and funds, but also drove a wedge between Johnson Group and Mr. Anderson's cooperation, causing us huge losses. This time, I won't give him any more chances. I went straight to find Leo Anderson. Leo is a typical second-generation rich kid, arrogant and overbearing, looking down on wimps like me who only trail after women's backs. The two of us have never gotten along at school. I arranged to meet him at an upscale club. When he arrived, his face was full of impatience and contempt. "Ethan, what do you want from me? I don't have time to waste on trash like you." I wasn't angry. I just poured him a glass of wine. "Leo, I came today to give you a big gift. A big gift? Leo sneered. What big gift could you possibly have for me? Don't tell me you want to borrow money from me again to try to win Sophia over. I looked at his arrogant face, feeling nothing inside. Ignorant fool, you'll soon find out who is saving you. I pushed a file folder across to him. Take a look at this first. Leo opened the folder suspiciously and pulled out the papers inside. When he saw what was on them, the sneer on his face froze instantly, replaced by shock and rage. This is Lucas's project proposal? How did you get this? I don't just have his proposal, I said, lifting my glass and gently swirling the red liquid inside. I also have his complete plan for how he intended to deceive your father. Inside the folder was the perfect plan Lucas used to trick Mr. Anderson, a verbatim copy I had reconstructed from memory. It was full of fabricated data and promises that couldn't be kept. He'll tell you his project has the backing of top Silicon Valley VCs and only needs a bridge loan to get started. He'll show you a forged letter of intent from investors. He'll even tell you that if your dad invests, half of the new company's shares will belong to you. Every time I spoke, Leo's face grew a shade paler, because what I said was exactly the same as what he'd heard from Lucas these past few days. How do you know it so well? He looked at me with eyes full of terror and disbelief. Because the tricks he used on you were practiced on me countless times. I said calmly, though my voice carried a bone-deep chill. Leo fell silent. He wasn't stupid. He had simply been confused by the illusions Lucas had created and the grand promises he'd painted. Now, the bloody reality was right in front of him, and he couldn't help but believe it. That bastard. He actually dared to lie to the Andersons. Leo slammed his fist on the table, his whole body shaking with anger. So are you satisfied with this big gift? I asked. Leo took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. He reassessed me, and for the first time his eyes lacked contempt, gaining instead a measure of curiosity and gravity. Ethan, what do you want? I don't want anything. I shook my head. I just want you to cooperate with me and play along in a little performance. What kind of performance? A delightful play of luring the host into his own trap. The corner of my mouth lifted in a cold arc. Lucas, don't you like acting? This time, I'll give you a stage big enough to perform on properly, to let you die under the spotlight. A few days later, an investment salon led by Leo was held in the banquet hall of the city's most luxurious hotel. Those in attendance were all prominent local entrepreneurs and investors. Of course, that included William Johnson, my father. And today's main character was Lucas. He wore a crisply tailored Armani suit, his hair immaculately combed, a confident yet modest smile on his face as he moved through the crowd, chatting and laughing with the bigwigs. Leo stood beside him, effectively serving as his foil and introducer, presenting him to his father, Mr. Anderson, and every guest present. Dad, uncles, this is a friend I told you about, my good friend Lucas. The Nebula Project he's leading is a program that can truly change the future. Leo's acting was spot on, his face full of admiration and excitement. Lucas's vanity was greatly satisfied. He enjoyed being the center of attention, and when he saw my father and I in the corner giving him a dark look, the smile at the corner of his mouth grew even wider. He came up to me and, feigning concern, said, Ethan, where have you been lately? You haven't been answering your phone. Sophie is nearly frantic. Is something wrong at home? Look, Mr. William doesn't look too well either. If you have any difficulties, tell me. We're brothers. I'll definitely help you. His voice wasn't loud, but loud enough for the people around to hear. In an instant, countless looks of sympathy, pity, and even a trace of schadenfreude were directed at the two of us. My father's face flushed instantly, his fists clenched tightly. I held his hand and shook my head at him, then looked at Lucas, forcing a smile that was uglier than crying. Nothing much, just a little problem at home. Lucas, congratulations. You found such a great partner in Leo. Hey, all thanks to friends helping out. Lucas patted my shoulder as if it were the most natural thing in the world. We're brothers, after all. Your business is my business. Don't worry, when my project succeeds, you won't miss out on a bowl of soup. The pride and contempt in his eyes were utterly unabashed. "Brother? You wish." My heart snorted with quiet laughter, but my face still wore that disheveled, envious look. Soon, the roadshow began. Lucas took the stage and, with his highly persuasive rhetoric, began to outline the grand blueprint of his nebula project. Big data, artificial intelligence, social closed loops, all kinds of fashionable buzzwords flew from his mouth, leaving many of the traditional entrepreneurs present dazed. The PPT was stunningly beautiful, the data thorough, and the prospects alluring. Finally, he displayed that letter of intent from the top Silicon Valley VC, bringing the atmosphere in the room to a climax. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are only one step away from success. $10 million in seed funding. Once this money is in place, we will usher in a whole new era of the internet." Thunderous applause erupted from the audience. Mr. Anderson stood up first, his face flushed with excitement as he announced, "Lucas, I'm investing in your project. On behalf of Anderson Group, I'm putting in $10 million. The whole room erupted. Everyone looked at Lucas with envious, jealous, and congratulatory gazes. Lucas's eyes were red with excitement. He bowed deeply to Mr. Anderson. "Thank you for your trust, Mr. Anderson. I will never let you down." Then he turned around, his gaze sweeping past the crowd and landing straight on me. That look seemed to say, "Ethan, do you see? This is the gap between you and me. You can only be jealous in the audience, while I am the protagonist of this era." I met his gaze and, slowly, pulled my lips apart into a grin. That smile was full of mockery and pity. Lucas felt a jolt in his chest as a sense of foreboding washed over him. At that moment, the doors of the banquet hall were pushed open. A few men in suits with serious expressions walked in. The one at the head of them showed his identification. "We are from the Municipal Economic Investigation Unit. May I ask which one of you is Mr. Lucas?" The whole room instantly fell into complete silence. The smile on Lucas's face froze. Forcing himself to stay calm, he asked, "You, what do you want with me?" "We receive a report that you are suspected of contract fraud and financial fraud. Please come with us to assist with the investigation." The man in charge spoke coldly, without a trace of feeling. "Fraud? That's impossible. You got the wrong person." Lucas shouted excitedly. "How could I commit fraud? Mr. Anderson can vouch for me." Everyone's gaze turned to Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson slowly walked onto the stage, took the investment contract Lucas had just signed from his hands, and in front of everyone, tore it into pieces bit by bit. "Lucas, did you really think I was that easy to fool?" Mr. Anderson's voice was cold as ice. "You forged a VC intent letter and used falsified data to swindle investments. Do you think us old men are all fools?" Lucas looked as if struck by lightning, his face deathly pale, staggering. "No, it can't be. Lau, tell me, what's going on?" He cast his last hope at Leo. Leo stepped out of the crowd. Any admiration he had shown before was gone, replaced only by cold disgust. "Lucas, you liar. I've long known your background. Today's setup was made for you. It's you." Lucas finally understood. He pointed at Leo, then turned to me, his eyes full of malice. "It's you too. Ethan, you're the mastermind." I slowly rose from my seat, straightened my collar, and step by step, walked to stand in front of him. "Lucas, I told you, this is a play to lure the host into his own trap." I leaned close to his ear and, in a voice only the two of us could hear, said, "Don't you like being the leading role? Today, everyone here is your audience. They witnessed with their own eyes how you fell from a favored son of heaven into a prisoner. Are you satisfied with this ending? You?" Lucas's face flushed with rage and blood, and he spat a mouthful of blood. He tried to lunge forward, but was held down by the policeman behind him. He struggled like a mad dog, roaring and cursing, but it was all in vain. He was fitted with cold handcuffs and, to the accompaniment of hundreds of scornful, shocked, and complicated gazes, was disgracefully pulled out of the banquet hall. I watched his retreating figure with not a trace of pity, only the thrill of revenge. This was only the first appetizer. The banquet broke up in discord. My father came to my side and gave my shoulder a heavy pat. He said nothing, but the pride and satisfaction in his eyes spoke louder than any words. Mr. Anderson and Leo also came over. "Nephew Ethan, I owe you this time. If not for you, I would have lost face," Mr. Anderson said, still shaken. Leo looked a bit embarrassed. He scratched his head. "Ethan, earlier, it was my fault. I apologize. From now on, you're my brother." I smiled. "Leo, you're too kind. Our families have long been old friends. It's only right we help each other." After this battle, the Johnson family and the Anderson family were bonded more tightly than ever. And I, Ethan, for the first time stepped into the local business scene's view as a strategist and operator. No one treated me anymore as that playboy who only knew how to trail after Sophia. My rebirth from this moment truly began. The news of Lucas's downfall swept through the campus like a gust of wind. All kinds of rumors sprang up. Some said he had offended people he shouldn't have. Others said he had always been a glittering fraud with nothing but a rotten core. As for Sophia, she fell completely silent. She hadn't attended class for several days. Her phone was turned off, and no one could reach her. I knew she was under immense pressure. Lucas was the one she had chosen, her creation, to prove her taste to the family. Now the creation was broken, and her face had been slapped until it stung. The Taylor family must be utterly disappointed in her. But I knew Sophia was not someone who could be easily defeated. She was a poisoned ice lotus. The more adversity she faced, the more she revealed her chilling resilience and ruthlessness. Sure enough, a week later, she appeared at school again. She was thinner than before, her face pale, but her eyes were colder than ever, like a slab of ancient, unmelting ice. She didn't come looking for me, nor did she contact anyone else again. She simply attended class in silence, left class, went to the library, as if everything that had happened before had nothing to do with her. That extreme composure, on the contrary, made me feel a hint of danger. She was waiting for an opportunity to strike back, and I would not give her that chance. I began using the funds on hand to take a more aggressive position in the capital markets. Not only did I continue to add to my Bitcoin holdings, but relying on memory, I also precisely targeted a few speculative stocks that were about to skyrocket in the coming months. My wealth grew in a geometric progression. At the same time, I founded my own investment company and named it Voyage. My father became my strongest support, not only handing me a portion of Johnson Group's liquid funds to manage, but also introducing me to many contacts in the business world. My wings were growing plumper at a visibly rapid pace. But what I truly wanted to do was to cast an even larger net, a net capable of ensnaring the entire Taylor family, that monstrous entity, completely. The opportunity arrived soon. The Taylor family's core business is a publicly listed company called Taylor Beauty. This company was founded single-handedly by Sophia's mother and is the main source of the Taylor family's wealth. I remember very clearly, at the end of that year, Taylor Beauty would be exposed in a huge scandal. Its flagship celebrity product was found to contain cancer-causing substances at dangerously high levels. Once the news broke, the stock price plummeted, the brand's reputation was ruined, and the Taylor family was left critically weakened, taking years to barely recover. In my previous life, I foolishly used Johnson Group's connections to help them with public relations and crisis management, only to be bitten back by the Taylors, who accused me of spreading rumors to curry favor with Sophia and depress their stock price. How ridiculous. This time, not only will I not help them, I'll make sure to kick them hard during this spectacular collapse, sending them falling deeper and crashing harder. I began, through various covert accounts, quietly and massively shorting Taylor Beauty stock on the secondary market. At the same time, I anonymously contacted the third-party testing agency that exposed the scandal in my previous life and several influential financial media outlets, slipping a few casual clues into their hands. I even thoughtfully prepared the retrieval paths for all the key evidence for them. After doing all this, I quietly waited for the storm to arrive. December First snow. That day, I was in a meeting at the company when a financial news flash on the TV wall interrupted the session. Breaking news. Our country's well-known cosmetics brand, Taylor Beauty, its flagship product Revitalizing Serum, has been found by an authoritative agency to contain carcinogens at 20 times the acceptable level. Relevant authorities have now launched an investigation. Boom! All of my subordinates were stunned. As for me, I merely lifted the teacup in front of me, gently blew on the steam, and a cold smile curled at the corner of my mouth. Here we go. At the market open, the stock price of Taylor Beauty predictably hit the daily limit down with no suspense. Countless sell orders were locked at the limit down price and couldn't be executed. Panic spread throughout the entire market. Meanwhile, in my short-selling account, profits were surging at a terrifying speed. 7 consecutive limit downs. Taylor Beauty's market value evaporated by nearly $10 billion. The entire Taylor family was thrown into utter chaos. Just then, my phone rang. It was a long dormant number I had just taken off my blacklist. Sophia. I pressed the answer button and said nothing. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, only her slightly hurried breathing audible. In the end, she spoke first. Her voice was no longer that aloof coldness. It carried an uncontrollable tremor and hoarseness. Ethan, you did this, didn't you? It was me. I admitted openly. What? Her voice was full of bewilderment and anger. Between us, even if there was some misunderstanding, you wouldn't use methods like this. You've ruined the Taylor family. A misunderstanding? I scoffed, laughter dripping with endless derision. Sophia, do you still think, even now, that what was between us was just a misunderstanding? What is that? It's blood debt. My voice suddenly turned cold, each word squeezed out through my teeth. It's what you and Lucas owe me, what you owe the Johnson family. A life, a family's blood debt. On the other end of the line, Sophia's breath caught sharply. I don't understand what you're talking about. Don't understand? I snorted. That's fine. You'll understand soon enough. Sophia, did you think this was just the beginning? No, this isn't even an appetizer. The feast I prepared for you is still to come. What exactly do you want? The fear in her voice could no longer be concealed. What do I want? I stood up, walked to the huge floor-to-ceiling window, and looked down at the bustling traffic of the city below. I want you, your whole family, to taste what it's like to fall from the clouds into hell. I want you to watch with your own eyes how everything you cherish, everything you pride yourself on, is turned to ashes in my hands, piece by piece. You're crazy. You madman, she screamed hysterically. Yes, I'm crazy, I said softly. 10 years ago, I went mad for you. 10 years later, I'm mad for revenge. Sophia, enjoy it. This game is far from over. After speaking, I hung up the phone immediately. Outside the window, heavy snow was falling, dyeing the entire world a pale white. But in my heart, a blaze of revenge burned hot enough to melt this icy world. The crisis of the Taylor family was even more severe than I had imagined. The carcinogen scandal was only a fuse. Under my guidance, more and more dirt was unearthed by the media. Tax evasion, financial fraud, bribing officials. Each single item was enough to damn the Taylor family forever. The head of the Taylor family, Sophia's father, went white-haired overnight. He used all his contacts and connections, only to find that this time it seemed an invisible hand was pushing everything from behind, turning all his efforts to nothing. Taylor Beauty was ordered to suspend production for rectification, banks called in loans, partners terminated contracts, and the stock price plummeted, teetering on delisting. The Taylor family, once a locally celebrated powerhouse, in the blink of an eye had become a storm-tossed, sinking ship. And I, meanwhile, made a fortune in this frenzy. With the huge profits I earned from shorting, I began frantically accumulating cheap shares of Taylor Beauty on the secondary market. What I want is not just to destroy it. I also want to obtain it. I will make the Taylor family's proudest enterprise bear my name. This is the ultimate revenge. Sophia vanished completely. She took a leave of absence from school and never appeared on campus again. I would occasionally hear scattered bits of news about her from Oliver. It was said that the Taylor family, to protect themselves, sold off a large portion of their assets, including the ancestral home they'd lived in for decades. It was said that Sophia's mother, unable to bear the blow, fell gravely ill and couldn't get up. It was said that Sophia, in order to beg for help, set aside all pride and dignity and once stood through an entire night of snow outside a certain big shot's villa. But no one dared to help them, because everyone knew that behind the Taylor family stood an even more terrifying presence, a young avenger named Ethan. Hearing this news, there was not the slightest pleasure in my heart, only a dead, icy silence. Not enough, not nearly enough. What you endure is not even 1/10,000th of the suffering I experienced in my previous life. 6 months later, as the majority shareholder with absolute control, I took my seat on the board of Taylor Beauty. That day, I met Sophia. She attended the meeting as the representative of the family shares. She had grown almost unrecognizable from thinness. The once immaculately pristine designer dresses had been replaced by a cheap professional suit. Her face was bare of makeup, her eyes dim, like a flower that had lost all its moisture and was on the verge of withering. The ice-cold campus belle, who once looked down on me and wouldn't spare me a glance, is now sitting across from me, head bowed like a prisoner awaiting judgment. She didn't utter a single word throughout the meeting. When the meeting ended, I announced that Taylor Beauty would be renamed New Beginning Beauty, and that the company would undergo a complete reorganization. All of the Taylor family's old retainers were purged. As she moved with the crowd, preparing to slip away quietly, I called out to her, "Sophia." Her body stiffened and she halted, but she did not turn around. "Stay," I said. She spun around sharply, her eyes full of humiliation and incomprehension. "What do you mean?" "My meaning is very simple." I leaned back in the chair, fingers interlaced, looking at her as if appraising merchandise. "New Beginning still needs a CEO assistant. I think you're very suitable. Don't even think about it." Anger flared in her eyes in an instant, the kind of fury born when the last shred of dignity has been trampled. "You don't have a choice." I cut her off. "The Taylor family still owes the bank tens of billions of dollars. Your father, suspected of multiple crimes, could be locked up at any moment. Your mother is lying in the hospital. Her medical bills are astronomical every day." Every word I said drained another bit of color from her face. "If you agree, I can help you solve these problems. I can even make sure your father remains safe and unharmed." I laid my card on the table. She bit her lip hard, her nails digging into the flesh as she trembled violently from the humiliation. A long time, a very long time. She closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, all emotion had vanished, leaving only a sheet of dead ash. "Okay." She forced this single word out through her teeth. I smiled. "Sophia, weren't you proud? Weren't you cold? I will personally shatter all your pride, melt all your coldness, and make you abase yourself before me, reduced to dust." From that day on, Sophia became my assistant. She did whatever I asked her to do, serving tea and pouring water, organizing files, arranging schedules. I deliberately barked orders at her in front of all the staff, demanding the strictest standards of her. I made her go out in a heavy storm without an umbrella to buy me a cup of coffee from the west side of town. I made her go alone late at night to sort through a warehouse thick with dust. I made her, when I entertained guests, stand by like a maid to arrange dishes and pour wine. Everyone looked at her, looked at me, with a gaze of pity mixed with fear. They don't understand what deep hatred exists between us. And Sophia remained silent, enduring it. She never fought back, never complained. Only those eyes that had once been as cold and clear as the moon grew dimmer by the day, until at last they lost all sparkle. I thought I would feel pleasure, but I didn't. Instead, my heart felt increasingly empty and more restless. The feeling was like throwing a punch at cotton, no place to land. Until that night, I had drunk too much at the social event. When I returned to the office, I saw she was still working late. She heard the noise, looked up, saw my unsteady footsteps, and instinctively reached out to steady me. I shoved her away. "Don't touch me." The alcohol magnified all the violence and resentment in my heart. I stared at her pale, haggard face, the face that once haunted my dreams, and now only filled me with loathing. "Sophia, do you think you look pathetic like this? Do you think you're trying to atone to me in this way?" I closed in on her step by step, driving her into the corner. "It's useless to tell me. Everything you've done is not worth 1/10,000th of what I suffered in my last life. Do you know how I died? I was trapped in the fire, my skin burning all over. I could smell my flesh and blood being roasted. I crawled on the ground. I wanted to live, but when I opened my eyes, all I saw were you and Lucas with those smug smiles." I roared, releasing all the pain that had been buried deepest in my heart. The color drained from Sophia's face. She stared at me in shock, her eyes filled with fear and disbelief. "What are you talking about? What previous life? Do you think I'm talking nonsense?" I grabbed her shoulders and shook her hard. "I'm telling you, I've been reborn. I crawled back from hell. My only purpose in returning is to take revenge on you, to make you taste what it means to be worse than dead." Sophia's body went limp and she collapsed to the ground. For the first time, tears flowed from her eyes. Not because of humiliation, not because of pain, but a complete, desperate collapse. "So, it's true," she murmured, "so the blood debt you mentioned is real." I watched her fall apart, and the violent fury inside me suddenly dissipated. Only an endless weariness and emptiness remained. I got my revenge on her. I destroyed her. But then what? Can my dead youth, my dead family come back? They cannot. Everything is gone forever. I let go of her hand, staggered back 2 steps, and collapsed onto the sofa. The entire office fell into a deathly silence. Only her suppressed, hopeless sobs remained. After that day, Sophia handed in her resignation. I didn't make things difficult for her and approved it. On the day she left, she didn't say goodbye to anyone. Like when she arrived, she slipped away quietly. I stood by the office floor-to-ceiling window, watching her thin figure disappear into the traffic below. A faint, indescribable sense of loss unexpectedly arose in my heart. The revenge seemed to be over. Lucas, while in prison, had his leg broken after offending someone and will spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. The Taylor family was completely ruined and expelled from the ranks of Yun City's elite. And I, Ethan, became the youngest and most feared new tycoon of this city. I won.